For weeks, I had sensed a shift in the subtle rhythms of our relationship. Little things, almost invisible on the surface, hinted at cracks forming beneath the ease and laughter we once shared. My girlfriend, someone I had trusted without reservation, had become increasingly distant, wrapped up in her own world. Her phone always within reach, her smile sometimes more fleeting than I remembered. I brushed it off at first, telling myself that relationships had ebbs and flows, that maybe she was stressed or tired. But deep down, a quiet unease had begun to take root. That evening, I received a text that would shatter any remaining illusions I had held on to. "I'll be staying at Jason's tonight. Don't wait up." The words hit me like a cold gust of wind, carrying with them a weight I couldn't ignore. Jason, her closest friend, the same person she often mentioned casually, the one whose presence she seemed to prioritize without thought of my feelings. I stared at the screen, my thumb frozen over the keyboard. My heart raced, not with panic, but with the icy clarity of knowing something I wished I didn't. For a moment, I considered replying in anger, lashing out, demanding explanations that would likely come too late to matter. But a strange calm settled over me instead. I reminded myself that the choice was mine. How I responded, how I carried myself, would define not just this night, but the man I would become in the aftermath of whatever truth this message contained. I typed back simply, "Okay, noted." No accusation, no begging, no desperate need to justify my existence in her world. Just the truth, the acknowledgement of her words without allowing them to diminish me. I went about my evening with a careful detachment, pretending to focus on mundane tasks while my mind replayed the countless moments we had shared. Every laugh, every whisper, every casual touch now seemed loaded with meaning I had once taken for granted. The anticipation of her return of a simple explanation was replaced by a quieter, more powerful thought. I deserved honesty, not deception disguised as normalcy. As the hours stretched on, my phone remained silent, and a heaviness settled over the apartment. The absence of messages became its own language, one I understood all too well. Each passing minute without contact reaffirmed the suspicion I could no longer deny. She had chosen a path that excluded me, a deliberate deter that spoke more about her priorities than any words ever could. When she finally returned, the tension in the air was palpable, though I kept my demeanor composed. She walked in, casual, expecting perhaps some subtle acknowledgement, maybe even the comfort of familiar routine. Instead, she found a quiet space, a measured stillness, a calm that contrasted sharply with the storm I imagined she might have anticipated. My eyes met hers, not with accusation, but with the clarity of someone who had seen the patterns, recognized the choices, and accepted the consequences without surrendering his own dignity. She tried, as she often did, to break the silence with humor, attempting to lighten the weight of the moment. I listened, allowing her words to flow past me, but the effect they had once held was gone. There was no anger, no dramatic confrontation, just a measured observation. "You could have told me the truth," I said softly. "You didn't have to turn this into a night of pretense." My voice carried no accusation, only the quiet finality of someone who understood that respect, once eroded, could not be conjured back by casual explanations or excuses. Her expression shifted, the confidence that had once defined her demeanor faltering under the unspoken gravity of my response. She searched my face for the old warmth, the familiar forgiveness, and found only the calm of someone who had already made his choice. The room, once filled with the echoes of laughter and shared moments, now held the subtle tension of clarity. For the first time, she might have realized that control, when exercised through deceit, never yields the power one expects. I spent the rest of the evening quietly, not wallowing in betrayal, but observing, reflecting, and accepting. The betrayal itself was less important than what it revealed. The boundaries I was willing to maintain, the self-respect I refused to compromise, and the understanding that love, when not reciprocated honestly, could not sustain itself, no matter how deeply felt. As night fell, I allowed myself a moment of relief. Relief not from anger, but from a realization that clarity, however painful, is infinitely more valuable than illusion. The deception that had once threatened to consume me had instead illuminated a path forward, one where honesty and self-worth were the guiding principles. The messages that arrived afterward, apologies and hurried attempt at explanation, were already too late. The moment had passed. I had already walked the first steps away from a relationship that no longer honored the truth I held dear. And in doing so, I discovered a quiet empowerment, the kind that comes not from retaliation, but from the calm certainty of knowing your own worth and refusing to let another define it for you.